Welcome to the CCK Law Q&A segment, everyone's favorite segment. These questions were inspired by ones we've heard from clients, from commenters, and other practitioners. So remember that all these answers are for legal information purposes only. This is not legal advice. And we're going to try to keep things pretty high level. We're not going to get into the nitty gritty, citing regulations and policies to you. We want to really make this sort of digestible, easy to understand information, get those questions that you might have answered. And if you have more, please post them below and we will maybe get to your question next time. All right, Elise, start us off.
Yeah, so the first question is, can you address a question about retroactive pay? I'm due retroactive pay after being rated 100% P&T. VA wants to appoint a fiduciary before the funds are released, but it would have been months since I've been notified, and I have not been contacted by the fiduciary department. What are my options? Okay, so unfortunately, when VA just decide that a fiduciary is necessary, it's just a process that takes some time. But one thing that you can do to speed up the process is you can actually reach out to VA and submit a person that you would like to serve as your fiduciary. You don't have to just wait for them to appoint someone. You can reach out to them and say, this person can serve as my fiduciary. Fiduciary, just make sure it should be somebody that you trust, somebody that will distribute your funds appropriately and responsibly. But yeah, I would suggest that you reach out to VA to maybe speed that process along.
Yeah, typically, a family member is a good choice, a spouse, a child, or a parent. We often see clients using those people. But like Elise said, you do not have to rely on VA's appointed fiduciary, and you can speed up that process by contacting them. All right. Next question. How do you get community care? My VA PCP says she has to approve it. Is there another way for it to get approved without my PCP's approval? So we just did a video on community care, and the short answer is no. You need to have a doctor or treating provider at VA approve that community care for you. Recently, though, VA got rid of the requirement of having a second approval necessary, so the process has sped up a little bit. But you can't just go out and get your own community care and then ask VA to pay for it. You do need to have approval from a doctor.
All right. Next one. In the legacy system, how long on average does it take for a remanded case that was returned to the board to be sent to a judge? So I'm going to assume that by sent back to a judge, you mean a board judge. So for a new board decision, on average, we are seeing it take approximately 6 to 8 months, but there's a lot of variables at play with remanded cases. So that can, that is an average. It can vary. But what I can say is that the legacy cases are remanding and going through and back to the board much quicker than the AMA cases.
That's right. And so I think, if that's like a board remand back to the regional office for development and back up to the board, that's plausible. We have seen some pretty quick turnarounds on cases coming back from court. So if it's a legacy case that was appealed to the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, and then it goes back to the Board of Veterans Appeals, sometimes that can be as quick as 3 to 4 months.
For sure.
It just depends on a number of factors, but it's going to take some time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, this actually leads into the next question. This is a great question. This is the age-old question, so get ready. It would be great if you could explain why it takes years for a case to be decided. If I could do that, I'd be a rich woman. One of my cases has been before a judge for 5 months. Why is it taking years, and how can we as veterans help? What letters can we write and to whom to make this process faster? Do we simply need more judges, or does the process need revamping? So great question. And I feel your pain. So the answer is multifactorial. There's a lot of things in play here, but here's some overall kind of high-level nuggets of why it takes so long. So first, you have to remember that VA and the Board of Veterans Appeals is dealing with 2 systems. We have the legacy system and the Appeals Modernization Act system. So there's 2 separate appeal systems they're trying to work claims through simultaneously. And so just the sheer management of that can cause delays. And then in the AMA itself, when you get before the board, you have 3 different dockets to pick from. There's the hearing docket, there's the evidence docket, and the direct docket. And so how VA and the board is working those, it depends. And so for a while, they were working one docket, now they're on another. And so if they focus on one docket, put all their sort of efforts and personnel into that docket will clear out, but to the detriment of the other dockets. So that is another reason that these things can take so long. To your point about who can we write letters to, you can always write to your representative and your senator. That can't hurt. They do know the issues, though. This is an age-old question. Why is VA taking so long? But I think to your question, do we need more judges? Sure. You could always, brute force the problem. You could double the number of judges, double the number of attorneys working at the board. But just because you're getting more decisions doesn't mean you're getting more quality decisions or correct decisions.
Right.
So if you just throw a bunch of brand new people at the issue, you'll get more decisions, but is it going to be the right one? What you really want is a quality decision. And so sometimes it just takes time because the board member and their staff attorneys need to look at your file. Yeah. You don't want them just crushing through this the way the RO did maybe. You want them to take a look at your entire claim file. Look at all the evidence, think about the law, and actually get you the correct decision. So great question. Keep that question coming. We have to keep asking that question because we never want to get complacent and just say, well, this is what it is. Because there's always things that we can do as advocates and things that you can do as veterans to push the needle forward and hold VA accountable to make timely and accurate decisions.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll pick up there in the next podcast. If you have questions, please leave them below in the comments. Remember, do not provide any private or personal identifying information. We want to keep these as anonymous as possible, but we look forward to hearing what you have to ask.